There's this weird lie that people sell you about your 20s that, it's supposed to be this magical, carefree, like hyper social time where you're constantly surrounded by your best friends, like you're in a fucking episode of New Girl and everybody's hanging out in some oversized apartment that realistically nobody can afford because we're all working like fun work from home quirky jobs and drinking coffee at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and somehow we're all moving at life at the same pace. That is so far from the truth. That is such a bullshit lie.
That's my opinion!
Welcome back to Opinionated. I'm your host, Julia, and you're going to have to forgive my voice today. I'm recovering from the worst head cold of all time. Being in your 20s is such a strange experience because, one person from your high school is married and on their third kid. Your roommate from college is getting their PhD and hasn't seen sunlight in 6 months. Your best friend from middle school is building a startup, and your high school boyfriend is somehow still emotionally stuck in sophomore year. Being in your 20s is a lot less like being in Friends and a lot more like being in an episode of Euphoria. But season 1 Euphoria, when they're supposed to be in high school, that's not what high school is like. That is what being 23 feels like. And everybody's just like spiraling privately while we're pretending to all thrive publicly. And honestly, I think that is why friendships get so hard, because for the first time in your life, you're no longer forced together. In school, friendships happen naturally and you see the same people every day, same lunch period, same campus, you're all in your hometown, you have the same routine. Proximity does half of the work when it comes to building your friendships, but adulthood removes all of that structure. And now friendships require effort and scheduling and so much more emotional maturity and reciprocation and communication and, more than anything, discernment, because not everybody you laugh with is your friend. One of the most painful realizations I've had in my 20s is that realizing that some people only liked the version of you that they first met. Your best foot forward that made them feel comfortable. But the minute that you start growing in any way, like you start getting healthier, you start getting sexier, you're making more money, the energy shifts and people don't want friendship, they want familiarity and they want access to you. And then you start realizing, like, I've been calling people my friends who actually do not care about me at all. And that realization hurts, but it's definitely necessary because quality friendships will change your entire life much faster and better than the quantity of your friends ever will. At the end of the day, a friend should not feel threatened by your success. And yet so many adult friendships quietly become competitions. Like say you tell your friend you got a promotion and instead of celebrating you, they immediately bring up somebody that's making more money than you, or they start minimizing your accomplishment or what you do for work. Like, oh, that's so cool. But honestly, like, corporate jobs are just soul sucking. I could never do that. Girl, be so fucking for real. Or like when you start to get attention romantically and then your friend becomes weirdly critical of the people that you date and starts flirting with your partners and like constantly comparing themselves to you physically. It's not friendship. It's insecurity of that person. Real friends are going to clap when you win. If somebody is consistently putting you in uncomfortable situations, like a friend keeps inviting you out with people they know make you uncomfortable, but they just don't want to go alone and like, it's just this one time, or they're pressuring you to drink when you literally said that you don't want to, or the friend that just keeps sharing your personal business with everyone who will listen because like, they don't know you. It's fine. Like, I'm just giving them the tea. That's not normal. Like, that person is prioritizing social convenience over your emotional and physical safety. And again, like, that's information you need to be collecting because we have got to stop calling every mutual coworker and party friend and Instagram DM buddy like our friends. Some people are just acquaintances. Some people are just activity buddies. They're just networking connections, or sometimes they're just somebody you have history with. Friendship requires mutual care, and becoming an adult is, I think, learning the difference between those two things. Because your real friends, those are going to be the villagers in your village. And at the end of the day, we've said it here before, if you want to have a village, you have to be a villager. You cannot expect deep community while refusing to participate in community. You cannot expect people to show up for you if you're never showing up for anyone else. And I'm not saying expect things from people that you wouldn't do in return, or things that they physically cannot do, financially or physically. But like, Would you drive them to the airport? Would you help them move? Would you spot them dinner when you know they're struggling, or pick up the phone at 2 a.m. or show up after their breakup? Would they do those things for you? Because those things matter. And not because friendships are transactional, but because effort and investment are such a crucial part of connection. And people who genuinely care about you will inconvenience themselves for you sometimes. And you should be doing that too. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. The main difference is between we hang out sometimes and this person is a part of my life. And that's so huge to me, because if they don't respect you and they don't respect your life, they don't respect you. Like, if your friends are encouraging you to cheat on your partners when you go out, they don't respect your relationship. If they're constantly trashing your job or mocking your ambitions or the fact that you work hard, they don't expect your future, you know? And a big one that I think people miss is if they are pressuring you to ignore your family responsibilities or guilt you for prioritizing your mental health, they don't respect your boundaries. And if they only support versions of you that are like messy and drama and physically available to them, or stagnant and insecure, they're attached to how entertaining you are, how dysfunctional you are. They're not actually attached to you, and that's not love. Your 20s are super emotionally weird, I feel like, because everybody is becoming different versions of themselves at very, very different speeds. You know, some people are healing, some people are avoiding healing altogether, some people are building and trying to grow up. And sometimes friendships end not because somebody was evil or horrible, but because you just don't fit into each other's lives anymore in a healthy way. That's just adulthood. And it is so hard to find friends nowadays. And it's so hard to make friends when you don't have that forced proximity with people. So I'm going to share my tips and tricks to making new friends in your 20s, making new connections, experimenting with people. Obviously, this is pretty exclusive to the LA area because that is where my social scene is. But if you are in LA and you are looking to make friends, here are 4 completely free or very, very cheap things that you can do in the LA area to expand your social circle that don't involve like getting wasted at the club, because it's hard to make friends at the club. It's hard to talk to each other. You can exchange Instagrams and dance together, but that's kind of as deep as that connection can go until you leave the club. So here are some things that you can do outside of the club to make friends. Starting up strong with the Silver Lake Star Party. I love the Silver Lake Star Party. This is genuinely one of the easiest places to talk to strangers. Everybody's already standing around and looking at the same thing. It's super low pressure. There's no screaming over music. And it's super easy to start a conversation. Like, you can just be like, wait, what planet are we looking at today? Or like, have you come to one of these things before? Number 2, and this one's controversial, the hiking groups at Griffith Park. I understand that it's not a real hike or whatever, and you're really only getting like a little bit of vegetation and the city skyline. But LA people love pretending that they casually hike 6 miles before work every day. And hiking groups are always going on. And honestly, they're great because walking beside someone removes a lot of social pressure, I feel like. So it's really easy to just ask them, how often do you hike? Like, am I the only one secretly dying right now? And then afterwards, it's really easy to be like, hey, I'm grabbing coffee nearby if you want to come. And that's how friendship starts, you know, not through one like magical soulmate interaction, just like repeated low pressure contact while you feel out the vibe and become friends. Number 3, trivia nights. There are so many trivia nights in LA. It is a super quick Google or Instagram search away to find whichever one is closest to your neighborhood. They are literally everywhere. And trivia is amazing because it gives you a built-in reason to interact. You can show up alone and you can say, hey, like, can I join your team? I know like weirdly specific movie facts, or I'm a really big history buff and I came alone, like I'm just checking it out. Is it okay if I sit here and like work with you guys? 99% of the time, people will say yes if you are warm and you are friendly when you approach them. Number 4, volunteer events and beach cleanups. Obviously, the beaches in Los Angeles are disgusting. So again, there are always beach cleanups going on. And I feel like this is one of the most underrated ways to make emotionally healthy friends. Like, you know, this person is active in their community and they care about their environment, and they're probably super reliable and less socially performative. So sign up, show up, and start a conversation. Just be like, have you volunteered with this group before? Or this is making me realize how disgusting people are at the beach. Now, this is where the tricky steps come in, which is turning a conversation into an actual friendship. This is where most people fail. You meet someone cool and then nobody follows up. Friendship requires initiative. You have to risk being slightly vulnerable. So here is my formula. While you're having that conversation and making that connection, find one point of connection, whether it's music or dating horror stories, fitness, work, burnout, astrology, movies, pets, literally anything. You're going to reference it again later, like, wait, you mentioned you love horror movies. Did you see that Los Feliz is screening Obsession? Like, we should totally go check it out sometime. We should totally hang out sometime. That is when you suggest the super low pressure hangout. Just, we should hang out sometime. I'm going to that farmer's market we were talking about on Sunday morning. You should totally come with me. Or like, I think I'm going to try this taco place next week. You should come. Want to grab coffee after the hike next time? That is how you're going to create the friendship. And then all you have to do is be consistent. Adult friendship is a lot of repetition and scheduling, unfortunately. People become close because they repeatedly experience each other safely and in a fun way. And that's literally it. That's all you have to do to become friends. I feel like your 20s will teach you that being surrounded by people and being supported by people are completely different experiences. A small circle that genuinely loves you will carry you so much further in life than 50 fake friendships ever will. Find people who celebrate you and protect you, and they respect your boundaries and your future and your growth and your relationships, and be that type of person too, because adulthood is already hard enough. But remember that if you want a village, you have to be a villager, and that villages are built, they're not found.